Right, class. So we've been working really hard on how our writing looks. Because as a second grader, how do we want our writing to look?
Neat.
We want it to be neat. We want well-formed letters, right? We want good spelling. Because we are getting at that age where we're writing things for people to read. You guys are doing so good at that, and then people love to read. Like, we love to read books, and we love to read stories that people write. We are getting to be such good writers that people love to read what we write, and we're able to have such good penmanship that people like to read what we write. So something that we talked about before in writing conferences with a few of you, and we've touched base on it before, is as we write one word, what comes after that word? What do we need to have between our words?
Spaces.
Spaces between our words. And how do we want our spaces to be? Do we want them to be like 2 inches long? Do we want them to be like 6 inches? An inch? How big should our spaces be?
And like inch.
About an inch, half inch or so. We don't want it too big, but we don't want it too small either, because if we have the space too small between our words, what's going to happen to those words?
It will be like you'll squish and it'll look like it's one word.
It will look like it's one word, right? So today what we're going to work on is putting spaces between our words. We've talked about this, but I have a new tool that is going to help us with our spaces to help make our writing neat. We have a fun writing activity we're going to use. But for this mini lesson that we're going to go over is put spaces between what?
Words.
Between our words. Please sit still in our chairs. So we're going to put spaces, and we'll leave this up in the classroom so we can look at it and think, because we've talked about this before, and I know you guys have talked about this in other years too, about some tools that you can use to help when you're making these spaces. But I have another tip today, or another tool that will help us also, like some other tools that we've learned about. So what is one way we've talked about using finger spaces? Or making spaces between our words? It is
putting our fingers.
Finger. So having finger spaces, right? So we're going to just write a couple things up here. So we can use finger spaces. That's one tool, and that is a tool we always have with us, right? And then sometimes in our reading group, we talk about when we read with a popsicle stick. So we've talked about those as finger spaces too, right? If sometimes that can help us, especially if our finger gets in our way. So having our popsicle stick, we'll color that in because we have the colorful popsicle sticks in class so that we know what kind of tools we can use. Popsicle stick. And then, do you have another one?
Like those little spaceman type things that we put in between our words, like the spaceman.
The spaceman?
Yeah.
The spacer?
Yeah.
Do you guys have that at school?
Yeah.
Or at the other place where you work sometimes? Today, what we're going to be using is a little sticky. Because this will help when we're writing. We can write right next to it, right? It's not going to affect our hand. See how it's smooth? So, this little sticky. A sticky spacer, we'll call it. So these are tools that just help us visualize and help us as we're writing. So as soon as we get done with a word, today, as we know, we can use our finger spaces and our popsicle stick. Today we're going to use a sticky spacer. So as soon as you guys write a word, I'm going to have you write the word, and I'm going to give everyone one sticky spacer. You'll write the word, put your sticky spacer, and then start the next word. So, for example, if I had a sticky spacer, and I was writing I would put my sticky spacer, name, then I grab my sticky spacer, move it to the end of this one, is Mrs. Slinker. So you see how that can help us with our spacing. So this is a nice tool that is not going to bother our hand as we're writing, because sometimes with our finger spaces, that can mess up our writing. So having our sticky spacer can be very helpful. Because today we have a fun little activity that I'm going to let you guys head out and go do. It is about Thanksgiving dinner. We've talked about Thanksgiving a lot lately. And today we're talking about the menu. You guys are going to get to pick the menu that you want for Thanksgiving. And what I think is awesome about this idea is we just talked about people love to read our things that we write. How fun would it be for you guys to take this home and show your mom and dad the menu that you want? And I bet they would maybe even make sure that you have some of these items for your Thanksgiving if they're able to read it and realize that you have separate things written here. So it says up here, the menu. If you served all of your favorite foods for Thanksgiving, what would be on the menu? It has an appetizer. Do we know what an appetizer is?
A side?
Like what you eat before your meal, right? It's what comes before the meal. A beverage, which they have in parentheses, a drink. What you'd want for the main dish, a side dish, and desserts. So with this, we are not going to be writing complete sentences in our writing, would we? What can we do with here? We can make lists, right? We're going to be making lists. So, for example, the main dish, we just are going to be writing the one thing. But if you would write, say you have browned turkey, make sure you have that space in between that. Or if you have beverages, if you had a couple beverages, you can do that. So, for example, if we had beverages, to do our spaces and our list, what do we need in between items in a list? What kind of punctuation?
Comma?
A comma. So on our paper where it says beverages, what's a beverage you would like? Yes.
Water.
Water. So if we put water, comma, right? Because our comma would go right next to water. And then we put our space, right? So then we use our spacer. What else? What do some people like to drink?
Juice.
Juice, and then I'll put a comma, and if I'm just going to put one more thing, I'm going to write the word and, so I use my spacer, and space, what's another comma? Milk, how about? Water, juice, and milk. You guys see how this little sticky can be helpful with our spaces, right? And again, we're going to be using lots of spaces here making our list with the different items as we move down on here. So we want to make sure we have those spaces so that we can see that it's not water, juice, milk, all in one. You don't want that all in one cup, do you? You want it separated, right? Water, juice, and milk. Otherwise, if you have it all one word, it's going to seem like you're putting it all together. So we're going to be making our list, making sure we have spaces with our spacer, using our commas, as we talked about before. And then also on this, we may run into some spelling, right? There's some things that we may not know how to spell. And what is the tool that we know now that we can use?
Turn on spell check.
Spell check on the computer. We can use a dictionary, right? We have these different tools, our word wall. Use these different things that we have to help us with our spelling. If you need to remember on spell check, you're going to have to sound it out the best you can and then look at the options that they have. So we're going to go ahead and work on our spaces. I will hand out everybody their paper to be working on, and I will give everyone their spacer to work on as they make their spaces. Do you guys think it's going to be easier to use this than a popsicle stick?
Yeah.
Why would this be easier?
Because you can move it easier.
You can move it easier, right? And it doesn't move on its own. Say a popsicle stick may move and make it sideways as you're writing this. You're going to stick it down and it'll stay right in place. So this will be another tool that you guys can use when making spaces to help make our writing clear and readable. Very good job today. We're going to go out and work on our writing pieces now.